So, I am a man of honest truths and one that believes that men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. And Johnny Juzang might be one of those players that just makes me eat my words in a positive way and not a negative way. With that being said, we're going to be talking about how he might actually be what the Utah Jazz need in a sense, filling in one of the many plot holes that has been left over the past couple seasons as they try to build towards having a competent NBA team that can make deep playoff runs. With that being said, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Today we're going to be talking about Johnny. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. 7.2 points, 1.8 rebounds, 1.2 assists, shooting 46.4% from the field, and 41.6% from three-point range on 3.9 attempts. Now, that sounds really good. But when you take into account the fact that it only happened over a 20-game sample size, playing 18 and a half minutes, and with only 5 of those being starts, it makes a little bit more sense, particularly from the fact that there was only 7 points involved. That's a low volume, but at the same time, shooting 4 threes a game and canning them at 41.5% is pretty solid because that falls in line with some of the best players on the Utah Jazz when it comes to shooting. Johnny Juzang is that player, and I have been somebody in the past that has not been a lover of his defense. I have been somebody that feels like he was a very limited player overall, and I felt like he was quite honestly just expendable. He was a two-way player that would forever be a two-way player, and honestly he wouldn't get any crazy understanding of the game that would help him propel himself into greater conversations. I'm going to take that back just a little bit. I'm eating a few of those words. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be an all-star, he's going to be a star, he's going to be some phenomenal player. That's not what I'm saying. But I do now believe that he has the ability to be a competent NBA player. The main thing being the numbers from last year. Obviously, he played most of his minutes in the G League last year with the most of his sample size of 20 games coming at the butt end of the season. So there's, putting up numbers on a poor team kind of conversations going on there. But at the same time, numbers are numbers. And in the preseason, at the very least, he has looked pretty solid, shooting some crazy percentages from the field that honestly make no sense, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. But at the same time, I wonder that even if he can't maintain the numbers, I think that it's reasonable to assume that to some degree, he is better than I was giving him credit for. So Johnny Juzang obviously is a player standing at roughly 6'7", I believe like 215, 217 pounds. So he's got a decent frame about himself, but defensively, he just never really showed anything that jumped off the page. He doesn't have incredible athleticism. He doesn't have unusually quick feet or quick hands. He's there, but sometimes being there just isn't enough. And against some of the best players in the league, it definitely isn't enough. So when you take that into account, offensively, you have to be able to provide something that makes coaches say, you know what, I gotta have you on the floor. I need you right now. Like, even though your defense is just okay and sometimes subpar, this thing you do offensively is so good, I have to play you. I would be comedically idiotic if I did not play you. And his shooting can actually do that for him. Now, he needs to hit his threes on a nightly basis. He's going to be on this depth chart, probably in the second unit, maybe arguably pushing that third unit, depending on how things shake out with the young guys. And he's young himself, but I'm talking more so about the rookies, particularly Cody Williams, and how many minutes they decide to go ahead and let him eat up. But I believe that Johnny Juzang actually has the ability to make something more interesting happen. I'm not going to sit here and expect anything off the charts so far in 2 preseason games against the Breakers and the Rockets. Obviously, the Rockets game matters more, but he averaged just 15.5 points, shooting 79% from the field, 78% from 3. Small sample size, but also a decent number of attempts in those 2 games. I like the looks. I think for the most part, most of those looks, probably 60, 70-ish% of those, are ones that he can legitimately see when he actually plays, his 10 to 15 minutes a night, if he gets that many, when the regular season actually starts. But leading up to that point, I don't want to sit here and just gas him and be like, oh my gosh, it's Johnny's year. He's going to go ballistic, guys. He's going to give us 15-5. He's going to shoot 42% from three. He's going to be borderline an all-star caliber player. He's going to be one of the best rotation players in the league. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say something so blasphemous as that. But would I be surprised if he reached a point where he's giving us, 12 points off the bench and he's shooting 40% from three? Absolutely not. I think that's something that's perfectly within his character. I think that's something that would make sense for him to be able to do. Defensively, I don't think we'll ever see a world where he's like, clamps. He's not going to lock anybody up for an extended period of time. He'll have some really solid possessions, and in team defensive schemes, particularly if he happens to end up on the court with Walker Kessler, with Lauri Markkanen, with Taylor Hendricks, I think that he would be really maximized in that aspect because he's not a blow-by goblin, right? He's not going to sit there and get cooked every single possession and then just funnel them to the rim and pray things go well. That's not his game. But he is going to be beat a couple times, and I think that he has enough defensive IQ and just overall understanding of the game to make up for what he's missing as far as being not so fleet of foot, and also put himself in a position to make it easier for his teammates that do help him in those situations, whether it be from rim protection or just gap scheming. The thing for me that makes it so enticing to want to buy in and want to believe in him, aside from the overall shooting that he had last season over those 20 games where he was shooting 4 threes a game, which is to me a very sizable sample size per game at the very least, I think that it's the fact that we have him on a 4-year deal worth only $11 million. That's literally less than $2.5 million a year. It's like, what, 2.25-ish? 2.27-ish? Something like that, $1 million a year. So it's nothing. It's literally pennies on the dollar. So if you can get a guy that can give you, even if you say he gives you 8 to 11 points on a regular game basis, a year from now, 2 years from now, even in that final year of that deal, that's a bargain. That's an absolute steal for a solid role player. He doesn't have to be particularly great. He doesn't have to be in the 6th man of the year race. He just has to be serviceable. You roll him out on the court and you're not losing shooting. You're not taking too far of a step back defensively. Offensively, the ball is going to move. He's going to always be in position. He's always going to know the plays. He's always going to set his screens. He's always going to roll. He's always going to be in the right place at the right time. And not only that, but when the ball touches his paws, he's going to let that thing fly with confidence. And more often than not, it's going to go in for $2 million, especially with the salary cap as much as it's expected to expand. Like, for Pete's sake, going into next year, the salary cap is going to increase and get bigger than his actual contract is. So I wouldn't be surprised to sit here and say that that makes him, above all else, the most worthwhile. Because even if you play him in limited minutes, let's say he just plays 10 minutes. He only gets in the fourth quarter. He plays 4 minutes before halftime. He plays 6 minutes at the end of the fourth quarter. It wouldn't really surprise me if he was just a guy that came on the court to give you some solid threes. He was in specific packages where we're down a certain number of points and we need to get back in that game. And the only thing he's out there for is to play defense decent enough to not get busted, and then also offensively shoot enough threes to keep us in the game or get us back into the game if we're slightly out. Even if it's a world where we space the floor and allow Lauri to get some extra work and damage in with him and Taylor Hendricks spacing both of the short corners, that would be amazing to see for me. But at the same time, it has to happen, and we have to see a long season of Johnny putting up numbers before I sit here and completely eat my words and say, Johnny Juzang is a long-term NBA player, guys. But with that being said, it's your boy Ray Hoops. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know we aren't all the best lovers of Johnny, but could we learn to like him just a little bit more? And what exactly do you think it would take for you to be willing to buy in on what he does well and kind of omit and gloss over the things that he struggles with? With that being said, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you made it this far in the video. I appreciate you, as always. Good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're in the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.